Okay, good morning, dear friends. I hope you don't mind that the screen is rather dim during these early morning hours. There's something comfortable being in a room that's not extremely bright and strongly lit, where the eye tends to focus back here on the Buddha image. I thought of using this first morning discussion to reflect a bit about meditation, and in particular, with the idea that most of us, or many of us, have not gained our full enlightenment, are still turning on this wheel of samsara, what we read this morning in the chanting, are still subject to afflictions, still subject to habits and impulses and so forth, which we are not yet able to release and let go of. And so, how can we use meditation in this context for our welfare, for our happiness, and to generate relief, immediate relief from suffering, to generate the conditions that support the growing in insight, growing in tranquility, growing in happiness, and moving towards the kind of awakening that actually would leave us permanently in a state of safety. This past couple of months during our winter retreat here at Dhammadharini, we were working with some recorded teachings of the great teacher, Ayya. This was the American bhikkhuni who actually was, before she ordained, before she went forth, she lived in California for a while. She had immigrated here from Germany, lived in California for a while, encountered the Dhamma, went forth in the holy life. She was one of the first bhikkhunis. This was back in the 1980s. And she was an exponent of jhana meditation, and was one of the first to popularize and introduce the importance and the possibility of jhana meditation for Westerners to be aware of. If one has had the opportunity to get instructions in jhana and has enough time to develop jhana, has a space that's kind of like a special space for meditation in life, which is very supportive from the ground of ethics all the way up to avoiding distractions, avoiding difficult or unwholesome states of mind, all those supporting conditions. Then, well, I had a conversation with I came as a disciple whose name is Lee Brasington. He also teaches out here in California, about whether insight is happening inside of the meditation, within the meditation process, are upon emerging from meditation. And Lee's understanding, which is supported by passages in the suttas, is that actually insight happens when coming out of meditation. So if you are sitting for meditation, you're very faithful and you regularly sit and you put in the time, you do your meditation push-ups, and you don't seem to notice nothing's happening here. You're not seeing the benefit while you're in meditation. Nevertheless, you might notice some things are really changing and transforming in your life outside of the meditation cushion. And you might notice that your point of view towards the thing that arises for you in daily life is changing because of meditation. And this is indeed what some of the passages in the suttas and in the early commentaries are predicting, that it's like, until we've obtained our awakening, while we're out and about in daily life, we're on that wheel of samsara. We are continuously being triggered. Our sense contacts are triggering feeling, and feeling is triggering craving, and craving is triggering clinging, and clinging is triggering becoming. And so the inner habits of the mind towards craving, clinging, becoming are actually activated in daily life by things that come along. But because we sometimes can sit in meditation, it can sometimes be in meditation as if you have a temporary respite or a temporary vacation from the wheel of dukkha. While you are in meditation, if you're having a meditation that's free from afflictions, for that hour, they say that Mara cannot find you. Mara being the personification of evil, or what is unwholesome, or what is hindering, what is preventing and blocking you from realizing your true nature and your true potential for awakening. My hope for you during these 4 days is that as much as possible during the hours when we're not together in discussion, that you will try to give yourself some hours, as many as you can, doing formal meditation practice, sitting meditation and walking meditation. And as much as possible, developing as much concentration as you can. If you don't have jhana, you won't be able to do it during a retreat like this, a short retreat like this. If you gained jhana in the past because you had the instruction or you had an opportunity to gain jhana, if you have chosen a lifestyle where you continue to practice that kind of concentrated meditation on a very regular, consistent basis, then you can keep it and you can go into that whenever you want to. But if you don't keep it up, you'll lose it, and then you'll have to make another retreat, another stronger experience to be able to get into that. But nevertheless, even for those who do not have access to full the full concentration, the full bliss of being really isolated from hindrances and distractions, the strong experience of jhana. Nevertheless, it is very often possible to habitually be able to come to the cushion, to sit down, to settle the mind onto the meditation procedure that you're following, or the meditation object that you use, the one that you usually use, that you're the most skillful at. For some people, it could be breath meditation. It could be scanning the sensation on the body. It could be loving kindness practice or something else. There's many different potential meditation objects. And when we're blessed with having a peaceful and a gentle lifestyle that supports keeping our mindfulness alive and continuous through the day, having a peaceful heart, a loving heart, a kind heart, then it may be possible to come to the formal meditation practice, to direct the mind towards our best meditation procedure, our go-to meditation procedure, and just do that practice. We recited this morning some things about the 5 aggregates of existence. We recited that the body is impermanent, feelings are impermanent, perceptions are impermanent, volitional formations, our intentions are impermanent, and the consciousness itself, that's like the knowing factor, is impermanent. It can happen even during meditation. If you suppose you're looking at the sensations of the body, or you're following the breath, that within that experience, or just emerging from that experience, you can experience very clearly, oh, this was happening in the body. This was the Vedana, the feeling tone that was happening with that. A perception arose for me. I have some intention, like I intend to meditate, even that. And you can see, like, very clearly, I intended to meditate and I did meditate. Or I could see some other intention arose in me, like I intend to go shopping later on, and the intention about shopping popped into the meditation and created some thoughts and memories and like that, and then the quality or the characteristic of the consciousness, as the consciousness is touching on each one of those things, like the consciousness is touching on the body with awareness of the body, awareness of feelings, awareness of perceptions, awareness of volitional formations. So if like this is happening for you, you have not lost your meditation procedure. You're still watching the breath, or still scanning the body, still holding the thought or loving kindness, or whatever your procedure is during that sit. But at the same time, you can see so clearly all of the factors of the body and all of the factors of mentality, and how they're coming into this practice that you're doing. And then upon arising and going about the day, going shopping or making the next meal or whatever we're doing, that we can see how those factors are changing when we leave the special circumstance of the meditation cushion and go back to daily life. It can happen for us that sometimes there might be some stronger reaction or some affliction, some emotional state that's happening in our life, which can invade our day, which can invade our meditation practice. Sometimes it even is impossible to settle the mind and let the mind stay on the breath, even for 5 in-breath and 5 out-breath in a row. The mind doesn't stay there because something has happened that's very distressing. We noticed the cruelty and injustice that's happening in the world, and the mind starts to spin and chew on that, and it's like it's not all right, and so then some kind of a dialogue or a story of proliferation is happening in the mind. Oh, this is so unfair, it's so horrible, it's so evil. And how can this happen? What can I do? Or it could be some loss or grief, and then the mind keeps like going over that. Or it could be something related to family life or related to love, some interaction that we have with our loved ones. So these kinds of mundane human experience, completely human experience, they can arise and create such a disturbance in the mind that it's very difficult and quite challenging to try to come to the cushion and do a formal practice and to just stay on the breath or stay on a meditation theme, even for a few minutes in a row. Please, dear friends, know that these occasions can be the most fruitful, the most beneficial, the most wonderful opportunities to practice meditation. And the meditation hour that seemed like a complete failure because you were not able to stay on the breath or stay on your object for many minutes in a row because the mind was struggling with worrying about something else. There's just this tremendous opportunity to investigate dukkha. That's the beginning of the Noble Eightfold Path. It's the beginning of the Four Noble Truths. It's the beginning of the quest that the Bodhisattva undertook before he was enlightened, when he was a young man, and he knew he encountered that everything in the world is subjected to corruption, sickness, and death. And before he even knew how to meditate, how to concentrate, then he was pondering and investigating and looking into that, saying, well, what is this? I've often said this, those who are my old students have heard it before. We can get a PhD in dukkha because we have really found out how dukkha works, how we get caught up in it, how the mind becomes obsessed with it, how we perpetuate it, how we make choices that perpetuate dukkha in our own life. And we may discover that if we have been holding on to certain kinds of choices, certain kinds of thoughts that are just supporting the continuation of our personal experience with dukkha, that we can discover that there is a kind of a freedom, that it's possible to let go of those thoughts and to see these thoughts are arising because of conditions. As the conditions change, these thoughts can subside. Even we could notice, even if the reason is a truthful reason. Okay, so there's so much cruelty and injustice in the world, and I feel personally upset, grieved, and stressed out by it. And that thought is like besets the mind and makes it difficult to impossible to sit and watch the breath, because thoughts about injustice keep coming into my mind. And then it comes to it's 6:22 now. I expect to hear a bell at 7 o'clock, and then it's time for breakfast. And this mind that was so righteously upset about injustice forgets about injustice and thinks about breakfast. See, so that's how the mind, flits and flies about, and the mind is not nearly as stable and upright as we thought it was. And so just as easily as the mind was able to forget about injustice in order to think of breakfast, it's also equally possible I could, for the moment, I'm not giving up my intention to do good in the world. I could forget about injustice and just pay attention to watching the breath for 1 hour of meditation. Or I could choose to transform my mental attitude towards injustice so that instead of holding it in an afflictive way, which is filled with aversion and hatred, oh, I hate injustice, right? Instead, if I turn the mind towards compassion, and I think, may those beings become free from affliction, may they be free from harm, may they find peace, may they find success, and may they come to the end of their suffering, may they set down the cause of suffering, and choosing a different set of thoughts, then can bring the mind into a state of more calmness and healing, and make me progress. So these are just some examples of how even if we don't have the ability to obtain full awakening, even if we don't have the chance to get into the full concentration of jhana, even if we don't have the skill or the knowledge about how to get into the immaterial, the formless meditations, nevertheless, there's so much gain and benefit that we have from the formal practice, which is setting up the conditions which are supporting of insight. There's another set of teachings. They occur in many different places in the suttas, It's a version of the gradual training, where the Buddha suggests that in order to meditate, first let go of your wrong views. And these could be the ideologies and the opinions that are keeping you locked into a pattern which is filled with conflict and negativity. And then look after your morality. If you're in a lifestyle where you yourself are being careless in virtue, to take care of that. And then develop the 4 Brahma Viharas: loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. And practice radiating loving kindness in all direction towards all beings, without any obstacles and without any hindrance, boundless, infinite, and spend a good amount of time developing and practicing and sitting with that Brahma Vihara practice. You see, you couldn't really do that until you had done this initial cleanup on your morality, right? So cleaning up the morality creates a condition that makes it possible to be authentic with developing these 4 boundless states. And then this creates the condition for abandoning the 5 hindrances. That is to say, abandoning the internal negative, unskillful, or unwholesome states, mental states that we carry around. So abandon the 5 hindrances and enter into meditation. Then, as the result of meditation comes something that's, in the Pali is a beautiful word. It's a yatha bhuta jnana dasana. Yatha bhuta jnana dasana. Yatha is like how bhuta is a being or becoming. So yatha bhuta means, how did the beings become to be like what we are? How did we become like this? How did some beings become so painful? How did some beings become so saintly? How are some beings angels? How are some beings animals? And so then this is where, when you have, and then jnana dasana, that's the jnana, knowing and seeing. So knowing and seeing reality, how it really is. This is where we get our diploma in getting our PhD in dukkha. We see the wheel of samsara, the wheel of the cycle of birth and death. We see how the world goes around and around with our moments of consolation, our moments of joy, and our many occasions of actual pain, grief, and despair, sorrow, lamentation, and like that. And then at that point, in this particular sequence, now we are ready to be able to hear and understand the 4 Noble Truths. So now we're ready to begin with Buddhism. So all of that work before has been just creating and setting up the underlying conditions, including the meditation, the insight into the worldly wheel of suffering. And then from that state of having the mind which is bright, pliable, malleable, and able to turn towards the object, able to apprehend the Four Noble Truths of suffering, the arising of suffering, or the cause of suffering, which is craving, the abandoning of suffering, which is non-craving, and the way leading to the abandoning of craving, the way leading to the end of suffering. Then it goes into a further sequence, which I will be discussing in a couple of days, which is referred to as the spiral path, or the supramundane dependent origination, which is leading from this being caught on the wheel of dukkha to realizing freedom and realizing awakening, coming to the state where the work is done and there's nothing left that we need to do. If you are able to stay on your meditation object without losing it, then practice with that regularly, multiple times each day during this retreat. If you are not able to stay on your meditation object, that means that you're being overpowered by some hindrance or another, which is blocking you from being able to just come into meditation and just stay there. If you're experiencing one or another or multiple of the hindrances, try to see what it is. Is it sensual craving? Is it hatred or anger? In other words, in the realm of liking and disliking? Is it in the realm of restlessness? The mind won't settle, it won't connect because the mind is too restless. Is it in the realm of drowsiness or sloth and torpor? Is it in the realm of skeptical doubt? And I know that all of us have been to retreats before. We studied the Dhamma. We've already done some work before on understanding the 5 hindrances which are blocking meditation. The only thing is that sometimes if a person has been meditating for a long time, for many years, they might sometimes develop a kind of a lackadaisical attitude towards the hindrances and just come and sit on the meditation cushion and ponder about their problems for the whole hour, or just come and sit on the cushion and daydream for the whole hour. I hope that you would just be aware if that's what's happening for you. Don't feel badly. It's just something that's arising because of causes and conditions. All of it is impermanent. We're all floating along in this stream of causality, but try then and see if you're able to choose to set up some different kind of conditions that would support having a more like energy towards um, uh, eliminating and overcoming the hindrance that's arising for you. And to do that, it's really good if you are actually self-aware, be very honest with yourself so that you know what's really going on, and then can bring out a remedy which is directed towards the difficulty that you're experiencing. We know that for all of the hindrances, one of the best remedies, the first suggestion that the Buddha has is if you have Kalyana Mita, a good friend or a noble friend, a friend who has what you want, who has the spiritual qualities that you want. This is the first beneficial condition for coming out of the hindrances and being able to practice. And so congratulations, you have already done that because you joined this retreat and placed yourself in the companionship of this group of good Kalyana Mitas. Then sometimes it's beneficial to have what Banda Gunaratana, my teacher, used to call it thinking meditation. So if you, let's say, for example, you are, you have a tendency towards a pleasant daydreaming. And you know that's a danger. And you want to set up a different, like a different energy to prevent slipping into a pleasant daydream. You could do a preliminary thinking meditation. You could think of your own body getting old and sick, and you could think of your own death. You could think of your own body becoming a corpse, and how the corpse is festering and getting swelled up and bloating, and how the worms and animals are consuming your body, how the crows and jackals and different kind of animals would be consuming your body, how your body becomes just bones and a few smeared with a little bit of blood and sinews, how your body becomes nothing but scattered bones, with the leg bone here and the neck bone over there, and scattered bones, and how the your physical you, deteriorates and just goes back to dust. And with this death contemplation can have the effect of calming down this inclination towards pleasure. See, so that's using a thinking meditation to setting up a different kind of energy. If you're feeling lazy, feeling tired, feeling apathetic, you don't care enough to make the effort, even just thinking about, it's called virya, which is called it's called right effort. Virya is related to virility or It's also related to the word hero. It's related to heroism. So this would be, regardless of what gender you are, bring up your manly power and imagine the kind of energy that it takes if you have something that's like stationary and you want it to move. I once went to a state fair and they had a contest for the team of oxen to pull a cart that was full of stones. And so they had this tremendous cart with, I don't know how many tons of stones on it, and the oxen would pull, and finally they would get the thing to go. And so imagine in your own mind, what would it be like to get the strength, get the energy to make the meditation start moving? What's the kind of strength and energy that it would take to continue and be persisting and not stopping? What kind of energy does it take, or what does it take in the mind to not have your energy just scattering and going this way or that way, but to have it be directed and focused? So to, like if you're driving the car, you step on the gas and the car goes, and then you got to steer it to stay on the road. And then just visualize and imagine these states of mind. Imagine things that you do every day that involve arousing energy, directing the energy, and sustaining the energy to do the things that you have to do. And then take that state of mind and bring it to your meditation object. This is an example of doing a kind of like a thinking meditation to set yourself up to be able to overcome a particular kind of hindrance. But if you are extremely restless, don't do that thought meditation before your meditation, because that will make it even more difficult for you. Instead, you want to do an opposite kind of practice to help the mind to calm down and center itself to overcome restlessness. If somebody is restless, one way that's very powerful is counting the breath, which it's not a practice that I particularly recommend doing for years and years. I know in some schools they do. But if you have a restless mind, if you count each in-breath, 1, 2, 1, 2, like that, and imagine the in-breath and the out-breath. It's like if you go to the market and someone is, and you want to buy some rice, and the merchant would take up a scoop of rice and then pour it into your container. So the in-breath is picking up a scoop of rice and the out-breath is pouring it into the container. And then he's counting, so you want 10 scoops of rice. So he says 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. And the next one, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, like that. And what you're just like in between each count, your restless mind could be jumping and running and trying to go all over the universe. But at least you're coming back, like the counting technology is making the mind come back again and again, and at least being slightly, somewhat connected with your object of meditation. And so then you just do that as long as you need to until the mind sort of like settles down. And then you can stop counting and just watch the breath. For hatred, the loving kindness, the thought of loving kindness, that's your go-to antidote. anything in your life that's like, it's not all right for you, you will not, I will not agree to tolerate this condition. Usually, very often, our hatred is cloaked in righteousness. And so we make our reasons why, because I'm right and they're wrong or something, that therefore I give myself an excuse to be disliking something or another. Or it could be even towards oneself, that you dislike something in yourself. So if that's the hindrance you face, develop kindness, develop compassion, develop forgiveness, and with a lot of sincerity, keep going until, don't stop your thinking meditation until you're really able to let go of your anger towards that person, or your anger, your dislike of that situation. Remember that person is not 100% evil, and let the mind be aware of whatever is good in that person. You know, they mean well, they're trying their best. Even if they're like a thoroughly bad person, well, if they're completely bad, if they don't have any redeeming qualities whatsoever, then you ought to feel a lot of compassion for them because they don't have the means of, you know, pulling themselves out of their painful rut that they're in. So then the last one of the hindrances is called skeptical doubt, and this I believe is very widespread in the West. People try to pick and choose what aspect of the Buddha's teaching that they want to practice. And they think some other part of the Buddha's teaching doesn't work or not relevant. You know, commonly it's mentioned about rebirth as something that people find difficult to understand. But the thing that's even more fatal to practice, I believe that a lot of people are not comfortable with letting go of craving and clinging. They experience that craving and clinging is what brings meaning to life. And having an existence which is completely freed from that, which is no longer fabricating anything, they just like don't want it. And so they're trying to practice a kind of a Buddhism that will lead them to be more like mentally well and healthy and happy and having a happier existence, sort of like within this worldly cycle of samsara, and not actually wanting to get out of it. But this is well, we lose an opportunity. Persons who suffer from skeptical doubt are very often getting tied up with views and concepts that then they're setting up whatever it is that they're resisting to. They're setting it up as a kind of some kind of a conceptual fabrication and that they set up this conceptual fabrication and then they knock it down. Even in, as I was preparing for this course, I was reading several different articles about different ideas of dependent origination. And the scholarly authors would write, well, other people are taking it this way and they've got it completely wrong and they should be taking it that way. And so try to, like your thinking meditation, to soften, weaken, and to let go of this tendency towards skepticism. If you try to just make the mind more simple, just be simple-minded, and just look for like the heart space, which is able to know and intuitively feel, oh, this is beneficial, or which is able to intuitively experience, say, danger, danger, this is not a good space. And then try practicing more. Don't worry about the destination. Don't worry about the goal. Don't worry about the intellectual framework. Just try practicing in a way which is going towards what you can experience directly as being, yeah, this seems like my true happiness. Those are some ideas, and you may have different ideas or things that you know about ways of working with the hindrances. But my expectation is that while we're trying to practice meditation today, you may experience some success and you may experience some difficulties in doing meditation, and your opportunity, like the lesson plan for today, is to investigate dukkha, investigate how the mind is going around and around, how the mind is beset by hindrances, how the mind gets caught up with thoughts, how the mind gets caught up with like and dislike, and just understand it's nothing to blame. This is samsara. This is your heritage, what you were born into when you became a human being. And the way out is by way of understanding. And so you can't understand it if you don't, with great honesty and sincerity, just look and see what's really happening. So this is coming to the end of my talk for this morning. And we'll have a chance for questions later on today. And I'm going to wish you a happy few hours, and we'll talk again at the next session. Sadhu, 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 anumodami.